everybody, hope you're doing marvellously well. If you watched any of the NAMM coverage that we did, well, just a few weeks ago now, you'll know that we went to Musik and they talked about a new plugin called Sweet EQ. They demonstrated it in the booth, but obviously that's not quite the same as getting to use it on a session. So they very kindly sent us one to try, and you're going to experience it for the first time, just like I am. It is an saturation EQ, so you can focus on certain areas and distort them and saturate them, what the proper term is, but saturate them probably. Without further ado, let's try it out. So I've got up the Rhiannon session that we did a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to give it a quick listen and I'm going to decide where I might want to use it. Now, we used Ash Sohn on this. The great Ash Sohn played drums on it. And there was this mono mic that we recorded, which was an Austrian Audio, I think it's called OCS10, which is a fantastic mic. And I didn't use it in the mix. So I'm going to see if it becomes usable now. Okay, I've got a mono version of the Sweet EQ. Let's make it bigger. There you go. So we got it on the mic here. Let's have a quick look at the product sheet. Aha, there it is. We've got the low end juice here. We've got the high end sparkle, which presumably is over here. We've got the lift control here, which it says prominent across the board. Sweet EQ's unique lift circuit helps any sound cut through the mix without overwhelming the low end. All right, we'll see what that does. Call it pop, add pop and energy with bespoke density circuitry here. So that's there. Control the outer limits with an intuitive band pass. We'll check that out. And then endless vibes. Sweet EQ's meter. Ah, there's the meter. Okay. Dances with every kick, pluck, shift, stab and swell in full living color. So is it going to make me sound like Vernon Reid? Answers on a postcard, please. We'll put it in bypass. Have a quick listen. Bring it in. Oh, nice on the low end. I can move it up to 500 hertz. Nice, about 100. Density. Oh, wow. Let's go back and check out what this density is doing. Just call it pop. Add pop and energy with bespoke density so that gives impact to any thin sound. Okay. Bypass. I mean, it's doing a lot. That's pretty close volume matched. Okay, lift. That's nice, and the high mids are coming to life. Sweet EQ's unique lift circuit helps any sound cut through the mix without overwhelming the low end. Okay, cool. So it's like mids, high mids. Obviously, you're going to hear more importantly. And then the highs. Maximum air and sizzles the vocals and dusty and harshness. Okay. Oh, that's nice. Then the calm might be smoothing it out. Cool, so let's now listen to it in the mix. It's out. I like what it's doing to the snare a lot. It's adding obviously a lot of low end. So let's bring down those lows just a bit. Let's do the same thing on the bass, because I felt like listening to it, the bass could do with a bit of grind. So let's open it up here on the bass. First thing I want to do, just go to the density. Gain match it. Pretty close. Off, back on, a bit more density. I mean, the great thing about saturation is what it does immediately is just take some of those little peaky bits, as it were, fold them back in, and then I can bring up the output a little bit so I can make it a bit louder overall, where actually, you know, where it's peaking like this, and here's your average. Now, the average being louder means some of those quieter notes are getting nicely pulled up to even out. I mean, saturation is the gift that keeps on giving. We're so used to hearing saturation from, you know, our mic pre's, our compressors, tape. Back in the olden days, all those extra transformers, all kind of rounding out transients that in a digital world, even though this was tracked, obviously, you know, using microphones and through the UAD, which has 1176 built into it, or a 76 as they call it, and a mic pre with a bit of gusto. It's still a digital recording. It doesn't have tape. And it wasn't going through a console with, you know, transforms on the input, transforms the output, etc. So it's adding quite a lot of niceness. So here's without. There's with. Oh. Okay, the lift is really good now. Would you say if she promised you ever? Off. Bring the volume down a little bit so you're not just hearing volume differences. It's pretty awesome. That is pretty awesome. The volume down a little bit more. Love it. I've always loved a bit of saturation on bass. I didn't do anything with the low lows because honestly I didn't want to blow up the low lows. They were already, you know, bringing up the kick a lot with that mono. But if you wanted to hear it, let's hear what it sounds like on the snare. Let's go straight to the density. The high. Now you actually hear that working. The lift. In the full kit. In the trap. I'm going to come up a little bit, 150, 200 on the lows. And of course, once you get the blend quite right, you can always pull back the mix. Full, bring it back about here. Nice, okay. Liking it so far. There's a lot of these plugins that you buy, you know, either on the master bus or, you know, individual elements you might use, and they add like subtle amounts of, you know, saturation to the overall thing. You know, you can put a master bus plugin on and it's got emulations of hardware and tape and all that kind of stuff. And unless you go absolutely nuts and put like plus 18 over 0 dB into it, it's very, very subtle. And I often wonder when I see these fancy sort of expensive master bus plugins, whether you should just be using something like this and just using it subtly, you know. You see what I'm saying? It's like, if I go to the master bus, didn't recommend in there that we use it, but I'm going to put it on the master bus. This might be a bit too much, but hey, why not? We can always annihilate it and then bring the mix down. Lift on the overall mix.
Would you stay if she promised you heaven? Will you ever win?
It's a little bit too saturated.
She is like a cat in the dark, and then she is the darkness. She rules a life like a fine skylark, and when the sky is starlit.
Overall mix.
All your life you've never seen a woman taken by the wind. Would you stay if she promised you heaven? Will you ever win? Will you ever win?
Wow, it really, the lift, density and highs, like push like that, really brings the vocal forward. The low obviously is like really, it's quite a fun tool. I know so many developers. I've talked to so many developers, whether it be at NAMM or on the phone or on Zoom calls or whatever. When people send me plugins, I like to get under the hood and understand. And I love, you know, so many great plugins, but you'll notice when I mix things, I use a lot of stock and a lot of like Waves plugins because I've been using them since 1892. But you get my point. I don't use that many, and a lot of pros I know don't use that many kind of like fancy plugins. They do, but not as many as you would think, not as many as being sold. And I think part of what it is like, I want this functionality. I want the lows. I love a bit of just saturation on it. It was great. The density was really, really good. The lift was really good. The highs were really good. It seems to do all the things that I would want to do on my mix. But do I need to pay another $100, $150 more to have it look like, you know, an API and a Studer and, you know, all this great pieces of gear? Don't get me wrong. Do I need to pay for the GUI? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's all ones and zeros. And also knowing programmers, coders, they emulate the gear and then they realize it doesn't do as much as they want it to do, because quite often some of the best gear that we own, anybody owns, is kind of a one-trick pony. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, when you go to Crystal Algae's studio, he had banks and banks of compression and EQ and stuff like that. And, you know, they were all set to do one job. We do the same thing. You know, we're mixing an hour SSL room. We had pieces of gear that did one specific job. There was an API EQ that was adding like the thump on the kick, a little extra. And then there was a DBX 120, which was just doing a 36 Hertz. And so it's a bit like having a plugin or whatever that does one thing. And that's fine, but do I really need that when I can have something that does so many different things? Look, I'm a big advocate of not getting stuck in the dogma of having digital products look like analog. I like the way 1176 works, don't get me wrong. 1176 emulation plugins are great because it's 2 knobs and really dumb, you know, attack and release, fixed threshold, blah, blah, blah. All of that stuff is really easy for me to understand, and I do like that. But, you know, you've heard me say this over the last 10, 11 years. I also like forward thinking, does the job without it having to be looking like it's got rusty screws on it and stuff like that. Because, like I said, everybody knows that emulates the gear, then goes, oh, it does those 1 or 2 things. We better add this to it, make it do that, and do this and do that. Things that weren't there in the original emulations. You know, I'd rather just get the plugin that does all those things, is what I'm trying to say. So what I'm going to do now is open up Master Plan, which we know and love.
Rhiannon rings like a bell through the night, and wouldn't you love to love her? Takes to the sky like a bird in flight, and who will be her lover?
Turn them both off.
All your life you've never seen a woman take
Sweet EQ on.
Would you stay if she promised you heaven? Will you ever win? She is like a cat in the dark, and then she is the darkness. She rules a life.
I love when I just turn that clean control up.
When the sky is starless. All your life
Bypass.
never seen a woman.
Just bring the out down.
Would you stay if she promised you heaven? Will you ever win?
So it's no volume difference now.
Ever win? Yeah.
It's great. Okay, so we know Master Plan rocks. I'm just making a point here that you can use modern plugins that are doing all the things that we love in analog equipment, but do much, much more. You're not paying extra money for really fancy graphics, and you're not selling as much of the visual dream, you're selling the ear dream. You know, I get it. I love it. I love walking into old studios. We've just been tracking the other room with a Neve 8058, and it's fantastic. And Fairchilds and all kinds of fun stuff. And I will continue to love using hardware, especially on tracking. But I don't always, there are instances, but I don't always need my plug-in to look like the vintage equipment. It might make us feel, you know, it's a romanticization. Does that work? We romanticize about this kind of stuff, but it does seem to me that this is doing everything that those emulations do, but without paying for the GUI. I'm going to back it off a little bit. Great. Yeah, I really like this. I can see me using this on mixes to come. I'm just about to mix a rock record. We finished David Bennett's record the day before we left for NAMM. Just got back, working on 3 different songs at the moment and about to start an album. And yeah, if I get to show a breakdown of that album, it's quite likely this will be on it. Music Hack has done some great things. Master Plan, of course, has become a favorite with many, many great mixers. Both off. Sweet EQ on. Takes to the sky like a bird and fly. really good. I'm not saying you need to use Master Plan. It was just my point to show that those two together is like, you know, can do everything that you can possibly need that would be 5 different emulations. It's an interesting world that we live in because I love, like I said multiple times, I love the vintage equipment. Don't get me wrong, I have plenty of it. But when I'm working in the box, it's a different world. I need what sounds good. I'm not so worried about what it looks like. Let's see if we can use it on the kick. Not there's any lack of bottom end, but why not? Just for the heck of it. Probably blowing up your speakers at the moment. Back it off a little bit. Just tune to 60 Hertz, which is perfect. We're doing a mic demo at the moment with a mic that I'm falling in love with, which is sitting over in the corner. We've been using it, was on the vocals on this, and going to be mixing that song tomorrow, and you'll see Music Hack on it. You definitely will. And it's a totally different company to the mic company. Yeah, I love this. I think this could become a favorite. I don't know the pricing, but as long as it's sub $100, I'm all about it. So Karsh has just confirmed that its regular retail price is $99, so that's called sub 100. But because it's coming out, they're doing an introductory offer of 79 bucks. I think this is a smart $79. You know, if I think about it, before we sign off, let's put it through its paces in a couple of different ways. So when I do bass, I will use a Sans amp or a decapitator with a DI. So what I want to do here, just for schnitz and schniggles, is I'm going to duplicate the DI. I'm going to mute the Ampeg amp, and I'm going to turn my bass DI, and this is all completely off the cuff, into my amp. So here's the DI as it stands. And it's mainly focused on the low end. Here's the Ampeg amp. Mainly focused on mids and above. So let's steal the EQ. This is the EQ and settings from, we can get rid of the time adjuster. We don't need that, don't need that. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my second DI and turning it into the amp. See, low end gone. Okay, so now this is going to be the amp sound. Now I'm going to grab my Music Hack. So now that's my DI duplicated, giving me kind of more amp tone, a little bit more gain. So let's take this up to about, what is the highest it goes? 500 Hertz. The overall one. So this is the overall 2 summed parts. So what I'm trying to do is prove here is like, can it be a utility plugin? So now what I've done is I'm using it instead of using a Sans amp or a decapitator, but with a bit more control. You're in the mix. So if I only had the DI, takes to the reciprocate, do I?
Be her lover. All your life you've never seen a woman taken by the wind. Would you stay if she promised?
Cool. It's brought the grind back. It's what I wanted when I first opened up the session. Instead, I wanted more grind on the bass, and I haven't given it enough. Not that it was bad, because of course it's 70s. It's a 70s song, of course. But there you go. So it becomes a utilitarian plugin that you can use on anything. Try it out for free. See what you think. $79 on special offer at the moment. It's a very, very flexible saturation. They call it Sweet EQ. I suppose they're saying sweetening the EQ by adding some saturation. I don't know. It's Sweet EQ. It's fun. It's controllable. Oh, the one thing we didn't try before we go off is we didn't try that high and low pass filtering. Let's put that on the guitars because, of course. So if you look to the left and right here, there's a low and high pass. Let's just listen to the one guitar pound over here. It's working. Do the Dave Jordan trick. Get down there, boost the lows at the same point that you cut. So I'm cutting at 116, boosting a little bit higher than that, about 160. Let's try its density. On the second guitar. All right, here we go.
Rhiannon rings like a bell through the night, and wouldn't you love to love her?
Back it down on the vocal a little bit.
To the sky like a bird fly.
Not that I hate it, but
Who will be her lover? All your life you've never seen a woman taken by the wind. Would you stay if she promised you heaven? Will you ever win? She is like a cat in the dark, and then she is the darkness. She rules a life like a fine skylark, and when the sky is starless. All your life you've never seen a woman taken by the wind. Would you stay if she promised you heaven? Will you ever win?
yeah, it's had a bit of girth, a bit of grit, a bit of excitement to it. Really great. So try it out. Once again, it's on a special offer for $79. What more can we say? It's a great little plugin. Try it out, see if it works for you. But it does feel like something that probably is going to work instead of 5 other different types of saturations and emulations and, you know, GUIs. I mean, because essentially you're buying a GUI, or you can buy something that does all of that and more, and not just be an emulation of, you know, a one-trick-ish kind of plugin. I really do. You've heard me say this so many times over the last 10, 11 years now, that I like forward-thinking plugins, plugin manufacturers. I don't need to see rusty screws. I love that stuff. I want to see a real rusty screw on my actual analog equipment. Although Chandler seems to have made a nice EMI type red here with NOS stocks from the 60s that doesn't have any rusty screws. So well done, Wade. All joking aside, try it out, see if it works for you. I think it could be a could be a popular plugin, to say the least. I know Master Plan is done really well for them. The other thing is as well is they don't rush out stuff. They take nearly a year to make a plugin. And God bless them for that. They've been around a few years and I think they have 3 products. Maybe 4, I think it's 3. Anyway, try it out. Let me know what you think. Thanks everyone. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, au revoir. Oh, and by the way, of course, you can download the multi-tracks down below. Get a link to download the multi-track. Thanks everyone.